Welcome, fellow last placers, to another episode of LPF Debrief, where Chris and I talk about movie reviews and we give our opinions on what we watched. And this is TV shows, so I don't know why I said movie reviews, but we do movie reviews also. We start these episodes the same way all the time because someone doesn't like to watch the amazing content that we do. His name is Yendi, and we're going to shame him. So, shame.
Shame.
All right.
All right.
So today's episode, we are going to be talking about What If Episode 2, which is Star-Lord T'Challa. And if you guys didn't know, this was Chadwick Boseman's last performance as T'Challa, which hits a lot of us close to home because him being our Black Panther and that movie resonating so hard, like so much with a lot of us. Listening to his voice one more time was was emotional for me. I know Chris felt the same way, but I definitely felt like some emotion as soon as I heard his voice, especially knowing a lot about the past and a lot about how excited he was to record this because he wanted to play T'Challa as much as possible, and he was one of the first people that accepted the role when they called back for What Ifs. He was like, "Yep, I'm doing it." So we're gonna talk about this episode. We're gonna try to make it without crying, same. But yeah, so we'll start off. Chris, what did you think about the episode?
I had so much fun with this episode from
Yeah.
beginning to end. Loved what he did with the Star-Lord character.
Hmm.
Um Also, real quick on a side note, I heard a rumor that he might be showing up more throughout the series. I don't know how
Yeah,
true
well,
that is.
we'll talk about that
Okay,
because
cool.
I do have some theories.
Okay, cool. But it was great, man. I'm happy that um I'm happy that they still had the Wakandan story. Just he just had a bigger sense of adventure, and
Hmm.
that's how I like how he got picked up. I did miss that. I thought they were gonna continue like the whole like, and this is where it changed everything
Hmm.
because I do like those moments. But this was like a whole separate story that they started from
No,
beginning to end.
they
What's
did
up?
do the when this is when it changed. When the moment they did it is when he says that instead of Yondu going to pick up Peter, he sent his the people. He sent two of the
Oh, I didn't hear him
Ravagers.
say that though. Okay, my
Yeah,
bad.
he says they send the two Ravagers, and this is where at this point this is where time changed,
Oh,
and
well
then
then I missed it.
he
My
gets
bad. He
yeah.
did say that. So my bad. Um but I did like how he was more known.
Hmm.
He kept he basically took the humbleness of Black Panther and spread it across the galaxy, and everybody respected him. Everybody wanted to be his friend, and he was actually
Yeah.
famous. So in that opening part where he's like, "Who are you?" and he
Yeah.
looks and he's like, "Oh my god!" Like the guy freaks out. He's like,
Yeah.
"It's you," and
Cool.
I was like, "Oh, this is
Yeah.
fantastic."
Yeah, Korath actually becomes a huge fan,
Yeah.
is a huge Star Lord. Really, oh my gosh, I froze. I'm back.
Yeah,
I think
uh,
I froze. I'm
there you
back.
are. Okay,
Okay,
there you go.
here we go. So yeah, he's actually a huge fan of Star Lord, which was a nice difference from Peter. No one knowing who Peter was, but everyone knowing who T'Challa was, and I think that was a nice addition, especially because Korath was hilarious about it all. Like even that whole fight scene where it's just like he's like, "Wait, so can we fight?" He was like, "Can we spar?" And he's like, "Yes." And then he was like,
Should
"Can
I
I
use
use
the
my
gun
gun?"
or no?
And he's
And he's
like,
like, no, use it.
"Yes, use the gun." He was like,
Especially when
and
he's
then
like passes out when he
yeah,
misses and gets electrocuted. He's like, "Oh, classic Star Lord,"
yeah,
and he passes out with a smile on his
a
face. And I
smile
was
on
like,
his face.
"Oh my god, this is
Yeah.
fantastic."
And then he even asked, "Hey, do you have room on your team?" Because, like, you know what I mean. And then a great line, T'Challa's like, he's like, "Well, I've hired worse," and then he just like picks him
Picks
up
him
and
up.
takes him with him.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's and I love the callback of the when he's like, should we be bowing?" And then he's like, neither is necessary. Like kind of like the throwback to when Bruce Banner
Yeah.
tries to be like, should we be bowing? And
Yeah.
then
He's a king and also.
and then he's like, no, we don't do that here. So it was, just little things like that. I agree with you. The whole T'Challa being so much more diplomatic, being more respected, because T'Challa, even the T'Challa in the regular universe he was an explorer, he just didn't, it just never, the opportunity never arose, which is why he did want, like, what I mean? He did, because remember, he always wanted to open up Wakanda. T'Chaka was actually the person who never wanted to open up Wakanda
Mm-hmm.
and do these things like that. So, like, if we remember, even in Infinity War, like, when, gosh, why am I remembering her name? Forgetting her name. Ask it was like when I anticipated opening Wakanda, I didn't think this is what it would be like. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So, and then he was like, "What did you expect? A Starbucks?" Like, you know what I mean? So, like,
um
what I mean? It having those kind of things was amazing. I love the Yondu actually going with him to Morag because he didn't go with Peter.
mhm.
Like, what I mean? Peter actually went on his own, and then he does the whole Ravengers never fly solo, and then
Yeah.
he's like looking around like, um, Ravager never flied solo, and then yeah,
But
so it was good stuff.
I also wrote down that as soon as he got picked up, and they're like, "This does this look like Peter Quill to you?"
Yeah,
I wrote down ruined Peter Quill's life because with
yeah,
that moment right there, I'm like,
hmm
okay, so I automatically thought about Peter Quill. Uh, his mom just died, like at that moment, and he's running outside. He ran away,
yeah,
and he's just like in all this emotion and everything like that. So
yeah.
it,
Yeah, and we'll get back to that the thing on the end because
yeah,
that's
yeah. Because
kind
I
of
was thinking about
important.
all
Yeah,
the struggle and stuff like that. I
yeah,
was like, dang. I mean, like, the whole time I was thinking about like while I was watching it, I was like, man, this sucks that this is a one-off because
hmm
I totally want this as a series. This is so much
yeah,
fun. I loved it a lot. Uh, I also have in my notes that um, I put stopped Endgame. So,
yeah,
so Star
yeah,
Lord, so T'Challa being Star Lord, um, basically got rid of Endgame. He saved the galaxy because
yeah,
whenever Thanos comes up and he's like, oh, we saw each other's differences, and
yeah.
everybody's just like, well, I mean, I'm pretty sure you were talking about genocide. And he's like, no, 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 no,
No, no, no,
no,
no,
no,
because
no.
it's random.
It's
Like, I mean, Josh Brolin just being Thanos all. I mean, listen to him be Thanos all day, every day. I don't know why my video's doing this a lot
it's
today.
losing connection. It's either me or you. It's all right though.
I know it's
It's only
fine,
within
but
a second.
to what you call it, T'Challa, him naming his ship Mandela after Nelson Mandela, I thought was amazing and cool. I also, yes, the Thanos thing was perfect because he's like, I'm pretty sure, like everyone throughout the episode later on is like, I'm pretty sure that's genocide, and he's like, and then he's like, I'm pretty sure it's efficient, like what I mean, like lines like
He's
that.
still
But
trying
Josh
to figure
Brolin,
out. Yeah,
yeah, he's still trying to be like, hey, this is the right,
it
like
like it
in
would
his
have
head,
worked. It would have worked. I don't know what you guys are
yeah,
talking about.
yeah. He's like, but he's a very like cool Thanos because like they could, I could imagine T'Challa and Thanos having an actual conversation and T'Challa actually being able to be like, listen, like you can't do that. and he's
Yeah, this
and
ain't. This isn't
and
it.
Thanos being like respecting him because he's a king and being like, you know what? So it was nice that they had that conversation and he was like, don't do that. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And because of that, like there was a lot of ripple effects because Drax planet doesn't get taken over,
Hmm.
right? So Drax is the bartender now and he's like still having his funny Drax lines, like what I mean. So they
You find out
never
his wife and kid are still alive.
are still alive
Yeah.
because Thanos wasn't there to to
Yep.
do any like to do all that stuff. So changing the galaxy as you know it was amazing. You know what I mean? And also when he has a conversation with Nebula, and after T'Challa is like, well, your dad loves to garden, like what I mean, like kind of like the
That was one of
throwback
my
to what
favorite
he did in
lines. Yeah.
to what he did in Endgame. So
Yeah.
I think it was pretty dope just that how one thing like one person could affect the way that Thanos's world was, which is what I liked about this episode a little bit more than the first one if in comparison is that we saw how like I felt like the Agent Carter was a little bit too similar
Hmm.
to like Steve's actual story, and then this was kind of like this had a huge
Effect. Yeah.
outcome different, like what I mean. So I thought like Nebula and Thanos having like a loving relationship was cool. Like there was just a bunch of different things, and then we saw the Collector be a completely different character now because he's like the main villain of this.
That's what I
And
put. Yeah, it was like Collector's new big bad, and
hmm
I enjoyed that a lot. I thought it was cool because I was just like, whenever Thanos was gone, I was just like, okay, so who threatens? Because
yeah,
I had that moment. I was like, who takes the place? Because somebody's gonna have to take the place. And I love the idea that it was the Collector.
yeah,
He had everything, especially that fight between him and
yeah,
T'Challa, and he brings up the wall behind him, and you see Captain America's shield.
hmm
Um, you see he talks about the Loki's dagger, and I
hmm
already assumed that it was just like, okay, so these guys are defeated already. He took them
yeah,
out. And it was just to show like a little bit of like, okay, this dude is like really really strong now, and he
yeah,
shouldn't be messed with.
hmm
um I did enjoy we got to they gave us a little bit more Howard,
yeah. Howard the
and I
Duck.
love that a lot. Like he
Hmm
he breaks open the thing. He's like, "Show me." He's like, "Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, let's go." I was like, "Oh sweet, okay, we get a little bit more." That's
yeah. We
awesome.
got a little bit more. I mean, that's just something we like. Everyone wants. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? A little bit more Howard the Duck, because I mean, the original movie, as funny as it is, it's also terrible. But it's just like nice to see the character again and having fun and doing fun things with that character. Like I just like that the MCU is acknowledging him and is not saying like he's just some throwaway random dude.
yeah.
I did enjoy T'Challa walking through the collector's ship and seeing a lot of the same things that we saw in Guardians, where he sees like the Dark Elf, where he sees Howard, where he sees the dog, like he sees a bunch of different things, like because he sees Cosmo,
Hmm.
and and then later on we'll talk about what he does with Cosmo, which I thought was cool also, and kind of like just the whole character itself, like T'Challa was represented so well because like you just feel like it's the dude, like you know what I mean, you just feel like he's just the nicest person in the world. Like he can fight, he can be a badass, he can do all that stuff, but he doesn't necessarily want to have to do it. But you know what I mean, so it just he likes to be more diplomatic, and I think them showing that is such a cool thing until you really get him upset. So I thought that was dope. I thought the way that the whole plan with him and Nebula, I thought was cool. Where like they didn't tell everyone the full plan, and then they were like, "Well, we're gonna do like you know what I mean," and then he gets into this whole situation, and I thought that was amazing too. Just that whole relationship between him and Nebula was really cool
Calling him
too.
Cha Cha. I was
Cha
like,
cha,
oh
yeah, like I thought that was dope. So
yeah.
yeah, they did a lot of cool things. You know what I mean? I did like that they showed that the spaceship from Quantum what the spaceship from Ant-Man and Wasp that they used to enter the quantum
Oh, I
realm
didn't
that the
see that one.
collector
I
had.
saw the star one from Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
That was in the background. That was the only
That was there.
noticeable that because it was very quick. I'm gonna watch the episode again because
Yeah.
I did laugh
Yeah.
a lot. It was great.
I
Um,
did like when the collector talked about Korg.
that's what I was just about
Unfortunately,
to say.
yeah.
I was just about to say that.
Unfortunately, Korg is not with us. He was he was defeated and they took his arm.
I know. That's what I was so
Like
upset. I was just like, oh, like,
yeah, like it's just I was like, man, and then I love the line because I think he was like, I got it from this terrible like
he
this
said,
chatty
yeah, he said.
Cornan, yeah, like he was just like because we all know Korg, one of my favorite characters
He
in the
probably got his
MCU,
arm ripped
just
off,
for
and he's like, oh.
yeah, oh okay, my
Oh.
you got my arm, like I think it's
Just like
such a
not
good
do.
character. And then more about like what you said with the collective stuff, where the cap shield, Mjolnir, and the daggers, which makes me wonder like what the hell happened on Earth, like you know what I mean, and
Yeah.
which is why, like I said, I kind of um like I can understand because if my theory is right, if they go like something has happened on Earth, right? Even though like towards the end of the episode they do go back to Wakanda, I have to envision something has happened to these characters, right? And depending on where the world is or whatever the case may be, I would like to know. That's why I think T'Challa would probably show up, and which is why they made this episode two. Because when you think about like the impact of the episode and all the things in this episode, this is totally set up to be like a last episode, right? Because you have the Chadwick Boseman passing, and there's a lot of there's a lot of heavy tone on this episode. So you would want to save this as your last one, but unless it affected the story in the future. So like maybe the later episodes something happens where maybe this is how we find out Killmonger becomes Black Panther, and then he's the King Killmonger. Like, you know what I mean? Maybe he is the king by the time they get to Wakanda, and T'Chaka's still alive, but like, he's out there going to save Tony. Like, you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
remember, Tony gets saved in the future episode. So I'm interested to see if like I know these are all like one shot stories, but they could totally make this part of one universe itself.
I
And
also
I
thought
think that'd
about
be
like, what
cool.
if I mean, if the Infinity Stones were into play, I know maybe I mean it's the Collector, so maybe he just wants them, um,
Yeah.
not like up to Thanos' extent, but I was thinking like, okay, maybe Cap went back to put the stones back, and something happened there. He could have been taken there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of possibilities that
There's a lot
they
of
can,
possibilities. And
yeah.
you could do like a what if Avengers, like towards the end. Like, you know what I mean? So maybe they do that and it's, maybe it is, Agent Carter and all that stuff. Like, you know what I mean? So that's the only reason why I could see them making this episode 2 is because I feel like it might have more implication later on. You know what I mean? It's the only thing that makes sense to me. Because otherwise, unless it really was, we want to get people drawn in. But I feel like if you really wanted to get people drawn in, you would have just made this episode 1. Like, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? So I don't know which way they're doing this. So I'm interested to see. I also like that the collector had Hella's her headpiece.
Yeah.
That was dope. Like she makes the blade, like he made the blades with it and all that stuff. And then
I just like that he was still the same. He was still the same character. Like the Collector was still the same. He was just more confident and he was
mhm,
big.
yeah,
Um, and that was it. Because he's like in the movies. Whenever you see him in the movies, like he's not a good guy,
yeah.
um, at all. But
I
he's
mean,
just
yeah,
trying
because he's
to.
collecting all this
Yeah, but
wildlife and
in the movies, he's like trying to finagle his way to get things.
yeah, hmm
And whereas in this one, he's just like, I'm just gonna take it. So
yeah,
that was the switch.
yeah.
So and I
Yep.
enjoyed it a lot. I like I said, I loved him being the big bag. I was like, man, this is perfect. I really like this.
I
Um,
also loved when T'Challa finds the ship, the
the Wakanda
Wakandan ship,
ship, yeah.
and oh my god, like the necklace lights up, and then the music hits, and that was another moment that just broke me because that was also like that moment in Black Panther where I was just like you know what I mean, like damn, like you know what I mean, I
Yeah.
felt this one, and so reliving that again, like you know what I mean, and him having that like not conversation, but hearing his father talk, and like that's when obviously he finds out Yondu lies, kind of like the same thing with Peter, where they kind of have that like little ripple, but T'Challa handles it a lot different than Peter does. He kind of was like, I understand. Peter did also later on in Guardians 2, but like T'Challa was like, I get it, like I
He
understand you guys,
stops,
like
like I said, he stops and assesses the situation. He says,
yeah,
"Let me look at it from both sides." Whereas
mhm.
Peter Quill is acting
I,
on
yeah,
reaction. He acts right
reaction,
off a feeling,
trigger
and that's why
emotion,
he
and
becomes
yeah,
one of the most hated people in the
yeah,
franchise.
yeah, yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's just like, bro, like come on.
yeah.
Where
I
it's Black
mean,
Panther, he's taking his time.
yeah.
So
I
yeah.
do, yeah, that the whole Infinity War thing. There's so many things. I do want to do like an episode where we just talk about like the differences of the way that you should have handled Infinity War because I
Yeah.
feel like there's a lot like Peter Quill is definitely blamed for that moment, but there's a lot of other things that could have been handled
But to me,
like
like whenever I
that
watch
was
it, I'm
handled
just like,
poorly.
I'd be Peter Quill. I'd be angry. I know
Yeah,
I couldn't control myself. I'd be like, I need to kill this guy. This is it.
yeah,
Like I need
hmm
to go. Or instead of like everybody would be like, bro, why didn't you just wait 5 minutes? Think about it, because now you did all this, and it's like,
yeah.
well, man, I didn't.
My thing is though, and we're just gonna do a brief little side note thing. My thing is though, why didn't he just shoot him? Like you know what I mean? Like either way, like like I get you being angry, but why was pistol whipping your option? Like you know what I mean? Like just blast him, like you know what I mean, to get it out of the way, and then you don't have to worry about this problem anyway.
Yeah,
So I don't.
we should do an episode on
Yeah,
it. I got to
there's
rewatch
some
it because I
things.
did have Star Lord was my one of my favorite characters for a while, and I did not
Yeah,
like what they did to him
yeah. So
in those in those movies.
yeah, so it was interesting, but
Yeah.
yeah. So then I did also love when Yondu does come to help T'Challa, and then the Guardians music plays in the background, like I mean, so it was like a nice little nod to Guardians. So I thought that was epic. I did love when they actually when they go back to Wakanda, and they're having like all those mini conversations are happening, and he's like, that kind of like, she's still like, that
Yeah,
kind
she's
of
like, it
sounds
sounds
like
like genocide.
genocide,
He's like,
and he's like, no,
and he
it's
snaps
because it's
too.
yeah,
He's
yeah,
snapping
he's
the way
like,
he's
yeah,
talking to her.
and then
He's
he's
like,
like, no, it's random. So like, Josh Brolin just being amazing. I loved, also
uh,
loved when one of the Ravagers was talking about the space travel,
yeah,
and then he was like, the jump point things that make your face go like,
yeah. He's like,
because
it
that
makes
was a
it.
callback to Guardians
He's like, it's a
2
lot of
when they
fun
were,
though.
yeah, he was like, so, and then, I mean, that was pretty much towards the end of the episode, and then at the end of the episode, we see, we do end up seeing Peter's story, where he's still working at that burger place,
He's at Dairy
and
Queen.
then,
It's a Dairy Queen.
yes, he's at a Dairy Queen, and then Ego comes back, and then it's like, hey, son, and then remember, um, what the Watcher goes, even though like he showed this nice story of T'Challa, he was like, but this could very much end the world,
Yeah.
which is why I said that I can totally see T'Challa showing up in a future episode and needing help to fight Ego because, like, you know what I mean, he's going to get the power
Yeah, Ego's
of Peter
very. Yeah.
Quill,
Yeah.
and if that happens, he's gonna be like the major bad of the thing because there's like Peter doesn't know any of the Guardians. So he
Hmm.
doesn't know any of the Guardians. He doesn't have any of his like powers unlocked. Like, you know what I mean? Like he doesn't know any of that stuff. So he's just,
He has
Ego's
nobody to
just
save
gonna
him. He's gonna go in and be
exactly.
like, yeah, yeah.
Ego's just gonna like destroy it. So I think I think that's gonna be interesting to see because I feel like you could totally come back to this, even if you don't do it as T'Challa. Like and he could show up again trying to protect Peter, like, oh, this is like the out thing event, because Yondu would know about it, because Yondu was supposed to pick up Peter anyway,
Hmm.
so they would totally know about all the whole situation. So I could totally see them doing something like that, and I think that'd be super dope.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, so yeah, so I mean, pretty much that we pretty much went through the episode. We're gonna do what we always do, where we talk about what was your favorite part, Chris.
Oh, this one's tough.
This is a tough one.
It's
This is
really
a
tough.
really tough one.
Oh man.
You really got to think about this one.
If you
I
have
can
one,
do
you can go
mine.
first.
Yeah,
Yeah, go
okay.
ahead.
I
I
got
really gotta think.
my favorite one. Honestly, was the Thanos fight, just because he kind of has his Hulk kind of line where he's like, "You're crazy," and he's like, "No, I'm mad," because he's the Mad Titan, and like his fight scenes just look so clean, man. And like I always enjoy watching Thanos fight. Like he's just a very tactical fighter, like in general. So like I love that they show him being tactical. So like yeah, he can run in and use his power, but he also will like really fight. And I did like what they did with the Black Order still being part of like they were still bad because they were at the beginning they were still working with Thanos, and then the Collector kind of got them in. So I think I did love that Thanos line, and then Nebula coming to help, because that relationship to me I thought was nice. Even when they like he was like there she's adopted, like you know what I mean. But I still thought they had a really nice relationship, and again Josh Brolin just being the perfect voice for Thanos, like because I can't picture anyone else. And I know I would have been able to one if I heard someone else play it, but now it's just like Josh Brolin's voice is perfect for Thanos. Even doing it as like a more comedic Thanos, he was still perfect. Like you know what I mean. So
Do you know who the
I think that was
voice?
my favorite part.
Do you know who the voice of Howard was? I had that written down
No, I
too.
don't
It
know,
sounded
but
so familiar.
I can find out though
Okay.
while you think about it.
My favorite moment is the bar scene when what's the guy's name that meets him in the beginning? I always forget his name.
Korath.
Korath. Yeah, he's like, oh, what about what about this heist and what about this heist? And each story was just showing how humbling and how caring T'Challa was. And that's the point where a lot of people came up and they're like, yeah, like whenever I went straight, like we ended up doing this together. And Thanos comes up and he's like, whenever I went straight, like this is when like it just showed. I think it was like a callback, not just in the show, but it was just showing Chadwick Boseman as a person and
Yeah.
how he uplifts everybody. And it was a very sweet and touching moment.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah.
It was Seth Green actually who did the voice.
That's
of,
what I thought,
Howard
man.
the
Because
Duck.
there was a point where I was like, this sounds like Chris Gray. Like he says
Yeah.
something, and I was like, it almost sounds like Chris.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, I agree with everything you said
Yeah,
about just show. They kind of showed T'Challa. They showed Chadwick Boseman's character through T'Challa, which
yeah,
is one of the reasons why I felt like they didn't want to even do a recasting for him
hmm
yet, because it's just like there's things that we don't know like on the outside, and there hasn't been a person even before he passed away that hasn't said like Chadwick was an inspiration to them. Like
hmm
everyone on the Black Panther cast is like Chad. Even before, like I said, before he passed away, was very like, dude, this dude's amazing. He's awesome. Like, you know what I mean? He always shows up to work. He makes us better. And even there was, I'll never forget. I think it was a Comic Con where they were having like an interview with Chadwick, and they were basically like, he was talking about getting the like becoming Black Panther and becoming T'Challa, and there was a kid who had cancer, and which at the time, like, you know what I mean, you think about it, it's crazy because he did also, right?
yeah.
And then he was saying that like the kid wanted to watch Black Panther before he passed, and like to and then Chadwick was just basically like, I have to get this voice down, like, you know what I mean, I have to do, like, it just made him work harder. Meanwhile, he was fighting cancer
His
himself,
own, yeah.
like, you know what I mean. And the fact that we didn't know for like until he passed, like, is insane, and it shows you how much spirit and like, you know, spirit and charisma and all that Chadwick had. So
Yeah, I couldn't do
Chadwick,
it.
they
I couldn't.
yeah,
Yeah, I couldn't do what he
it was
did,
crazy.
especially like his family,
Hmm.
the way they came out about it, and they're like, "Hey, he didn't want us to be upset. Like
Yeah,
we've known this for a while," and um, I just thought it was insane how
yeah,
the prep and everything like that, and he continuously just gave instead of like, "Hey, I should be," he spent time with his family, but he also
yeah,
gave, like, he still wanted to make sure, like, "Hey, I want to make an imprint on the world,"
yeah.
and he
And he
did
did.
that.
He
Yeah,
did that through the movies. I mean, he played iconic characters too, like not just T'Challa. Like he
yeah,
played Jackie Robinson. He
yep.
played James Brown. Like, you know what I mean. He played Thurgood Marshall. Like he played so many iconic characters, and like it's so just insane the immense talent that he had. And Chadwick gave us, you know, a gem with T'Challa. Like he will always be, and that's why like I think Marvel is very hesitant on recasting it, is because it's really hard for you to like someone who's had such an impact like that to just be like, well, we're gonna, you know, recast them, even though I feel like at some point they're going to have to, or they can do my theory, which I think would work better. You want to bring back Michael B. Jordan, you take this what if story that is about to show up, you transport him into the real, like into the sacred timeline, and then you have Killmonger, a good Killmonger, and you get Michael B. Jordan back. Just saying.
Yeah.
So I think that's what they might end up doing. We'll see. But this was Chadwick's last performance as well for the episode, like it starring him. So hopefully we see it again or
Yeah,
hear it again.
rest in peace, man.
Yeah, rest in peace.
I'm glad I
You
got
know,
to witness it.
and then, you know, if you haven't picked it up yet, go get yourself a Star Lord
Mine's on the
T'Challa pop.
way.
So I got them. Podcast listeners, you won't be able to see this, but the YouTube, you guys can see it. So yeah, I think that is going to wrap it up for LPF debrief on What If. Please, guys, like, subscribe, do all that stuff. We're doing a mouse giveaway once we hit 100, so we want to give away that mouse. So tell a friend, tell a couple friends, tell 3 friends, tell 5 friends. Who knows? Just tell enough friends so we can get to 100, so we can give this mouse away. Because that's what we want to do. We want to continue doing things like that and doing giveaways and things like that. And we appreciate all the support that you guys have been giving us. Next week, we're going to have another episode of What If. I
This one
don't,
I have no idea what it is.
yeah,
I have
they haven't
no.
released it. They usually release it on like Monday or something. What the episode's going to be. So we'll see which one this is going to be, but we're going to talk about it. And then the week after is Shang-Chi. So we'll have
Yes.
a double. We'll have episode 4 of this, and then the Shang-Chi chat, which I've been hearing really good reviews about, which I'm really excited about
So
because,
hyped.
again, if you guys know me, I love Kung Fu. And if you're going to give me a Kung Fu Marvel movie, please. And I love Shang-Chi. He's always been one of my, like, low key favorite characters. Like, not that, like, he's not like a super well known character, but he's an awesome character because I just love Kung Fu. I actually have issue 1 of Shang-Chi, which I bet a lot of people can't say they do. So, boom, take that. Just boasting a little bit. So, you know, for the people who are like, you are not a real fan, I can just be like, Oh yeah.
Phony.
I was like, what do you think about this? So, thank you guys for joining us. We're out. Chris is out. So, until next time, Fire Team out.